My name is Richard Dighton. So I work for a law firm called Simmons Simmons. I'm the pro bono partner here. We do really a mixture between domestic, access to justice type work here in the UK, but then international human rights type pro bono work throughout the network.
So I lead the pro bono practice at Simmons Simmons globally and bring together the client relationships with the firm's pro bono strategy and also link the lawyers up with the work which they want to do.
Actually, there's this moral responsibility, I think, felt by quite a lot of lawyers to give something back. So that's very a collaborative type environment. Collaborative not just for pro bono law firms, but also for NGOs like PBI and other human rights defenders.
So we've had a partnership with Peace Brigades International for about 3 years, and we've been working specifically on a toolbox for human rights defenders.
What we have observed is that there is a general lack of implementation of the UN Guiding Principles on Business and Human Rights on the ground. So we came to the lawyers at Simmons Simmons and asked them whether they would be interested in exploring the content and the knowledge of the UN Guiding Principles, but from the lens, from the perspective of how human rights defenders could actually benefit.
And how they can use the UN Guiding Principles on Business and Human Rights to deal with companies, to assert their rights when dealing with companies. And they're couched in language which can be used by human rights defenders on the ground, who don't necessarily have a legal training or a legal background.
This is probably one of the biggest pieces of pro bono work that we've done with a team of 30 odd lawyers. A number of our lawyers have been involved and become quite specialists actually in advising on the international principles that apply to land rights and the land rights abuses. So for example, I went to Tanzania to look at the land rights issues for the Maasai people there, and when we were talking to the leaders of the Maasai tribe, who actually, by the way, became very badly abused, physically abused by police and authorities, so this was a serious human rights issue. They said, actually, you know, we don't want more Maasai warriors, what we need is lawyers.
Any interaction with a company, it could be a very beneficial interaction where they're negotiating an agreement for the local community to use the land, and it may mean that the local community actually obtains access to employment or education or other benefits. Or it may be at the other extreme where there's real detriment to human rights, people are being injured or harmed, or there's a risk of serious injury or death. So on that whole spectrum are different ways to negotiate and deal with companies or with corporations or different organisations. So the toolbox comprises of 16 legal fact sheets.
Every fact sheet is not just a theoretical exercise, but actually contains very practical and specific advice on how human rights defenders can make use of aspects of the UN Guiding Principles.
And you also actually, you want the parties that are potentially abusing human rights to know that there is some support from international law firms to actually rebut whatever is being alleged.
It's very rewarding to see how big corporate firms such as Simmons Simmons has been prepared to listen to the needs of a grassroots organization such as Peace Brigades International, and most importantly to the needs of the human rights defenders that we're intending to protect and to support.
Ever since then, I think people have been very impressed with the organisation, but I think there's underlying all of that is a sort of a deep respect for the human rights defenders and admiration, you know, for this courage of these guys. We would say that we would have pride in production of those fact sheets and keeping those updated.